Alright, so since there's not many mappers right now, which is basically, at the moment, as I'm recording this, it's just me, Fires, and partially Escara, or whatever. And so I want to record a little instruction video for mapping. It's going to be really basic, so don't expect anything really advanced here. I'm just going to teach the basics so you can start mapping. I'll either make another video on how to do more advanced stuff, or you'll teach yourself by the time the video's even made. Okay, so you want to start out getting tiled. It's a little mapping program that you'll need for mapping Carrion levels. So first of all, you want to go to Steam, right click on Sneak Peek, click on Properties, click on Local Files, click Browse Local Files, and then this window should open up. Click on Content, click on Levels, and then in here you want to create a new JSON file. You can either do that with the empty, you can either do that by copying and pasting the empty file and renaming it, and the same thing goes for the scripts, which you'll need to just copy the empty, paste, and then rename it to the same thing the levels JSON is called. Then after you installed and launched Tiled, you want to open your little map. I called it TUTMAP1, tutorial map. And you might also want to get the debug map I have made for an easier mapping experience, as you can just take something, copy it, and paste it. No need to like set up all this stuff. I've made a little plan on what I want to make for the tutorial. It's a small map with 3 rooms, so it's nothing too big. It's just for showing how this works. So this is what I planned for doing in the tutorial. Here you see I do a very basic sketch of the place I want to create. Then also put some objects, and also name them down here what each one is. For example, this is a switch that will open this door, and this is another switch, but it's a lever variant which you can pull to open that door. The heart is a checkpoint, and this thing is the goal that you'll go to after you collected all checkpoints. The sound clock looking thing is the start. It has a sound clock look because in the editor it looks like a sound clock. And then here I put a human, but you can also put like a ×3 or something above it. I don't know. You can also just completely leave out all of these and just improvise. You just draw the basics, the basic shape of the place, and then place when you're in the editor. Okay, so after you have planned ahead, which you should do, and you are ready, and you know what you want to make, you want to get the tile set collision, make sure you're on layer foreground, and start placing your stuff. Not like that, but after you're ready, go to tile sets, click on collision, make sure you're on foreground, and then start building your map. You can hold shift and click to make a straight line to whatever you want. You can use this to make straight lines really easily, because if you're doing it like this, there's a high chance this will happen. If you want to delete stuff, you can right click the background, and then you can have access to the not existing tile. Another thing to remember is that the thinnest tiles can get is too wide or too tall. After that, it doesn't matter where you click, it will always delete all of them, as there's no single tiles, or we want to call them. If you want to place box again, just right click anywhere on the collision block, preferably in the darker part. Okay, I'm back. So I just made I've made the basic version of the map. You might see that I left a lot of space in between the rooms. That is because when you travel in between rooms, oh yeah, also you can hold control to get a smaller area, a 2x2. If you place a door here and you travel to the next room and you're instantly inside the room, you might, depending on the room, it might be a little unfair as the enemies can shoot you before you even know you're inside. So you want to leave a little space in between the rooms. I've also done that in some of my maps, like Bunker. Like here you see there's a long corridor, which is just the transition between rooms. So it makes it easier to see what's coming up. Back to the tutorial map. You also want to remember to fill out a little bit more than just the area itself. Kind of like this. Because when you're placing the chambers, which is basically the regions of how far the camera sees in the map, then you also want to be able to see a little bit more than just the chamber itself, and not just be limited, because when placing chambers, as soon as the chamber ends, there's like a fade to black, and if the chamber's too small, you're gonna barely see the room. Okay, so after you've done this, you want to start building the chambers. For that, go down here to the chambers in the debug map. Choose any you want. I'm gonna be using lab. Whoops. Copy it. Go to tutorial map. Make sure you're on layout. Make sure you're on layer chambers, and then paste it. You can hold control to snap it to the grid, by the way. That makes placing objects and chambers and stuff like that easier. Then you can make it bigger. Doesn't have to be perfect. Kind of like this. So it's like in between the transition between rooms. Do that for all 3 rooms. Or you could make both rooms one, so you see them both at the same screen. I'm gonna have that. And then you're not gonna be needing the chamber anymore. So you can turn it invisible. It'll still be there, but you can't see it. Then we can start undoing the little objects I placed on the sketch. So we'll need the player and the initial camera position. So copy those. Go into objects. Go into the objects layer. Paste them and put them wherever you like. I'm gonna place them like they are on the sketch. And then continue doing that for all the objects you have planned ahead for. A little thing to remember is when placing enemies, most of them will be on the layer Objects Plus. You can see that by clicking on one, and then the layer automatically going to Objects Plus. It might not be for some of the things. Here, for example, I forgot to set the correct layer, but that doesn't matter. All of these should be on the layer Objects Plus. All of them except the drone, the turret, and the sticky bomb, because they are robotic enemies, I guess. Okay, so I want to get the scientist, the one with no weapons. Go to Object Plus, paste, and put them here. Also remember to frequently save so you don't lose progress when anything happens, because child crashing or just generally your computer crashing is a possibility. So make sure you don't lose too much progress when that does happen. When making levers, you want to make sure that when you scroll in, you see these little arrows that you usually use to make the box bigger. You want to put the switch with the lever variant. You see that in the custom properties. The arrows should be kind of mostly aligned with the tiles themselves, because the lever itself starts at the top half. Okay, after you've done placing all the objects, which I have, you may notice I put another checkpoint here, another hive place, because I want to go into something. The number of hive places automatically increases the amount of hatches that the girl door has, but the maximum amount is 6, so I'm pretty sure if you place more than 6, it doesn't matter how many you get, because as soon as you got the 6th one, the goal will open. Okay, so next you want to put a little background. You can do that by using the collision tile set and clicking on the layer background. Just make sure that there's like no open background. Save. And then if we did everything right, the map should work, and when we launch the game and type load level and whatever you called the map, in this case TUT map 1, it should open and not crash. In game, open the console, type load underscore level, and then test map, oh no, sorry, TUT map 1, and then boom, I am in the level. The upgrade containers here, the guy was here, the checkpoint I was talking about, and the switch. But the switch doesn't do anything. So how do we get the switch to work? Well, that's the next step. Oh, by the way, if you don't have to quit the game when making maps. You can leave the game open, because if you press F2, it automatically refreshes and takes the latest version of the map. Okay, so back to tiled. We want that this switch opens this door, and this lever opens this door. So we gotta give them names that match. It doesn't need to match, but it's easier to keep track of which switch opens which door if you name them similar. So in the name above the type, you can call them whatever, but I'm gonna call them, oops, I'm gonna call them switch 1 and door 1. And same for this one. You can call it switch 2 or lever 2 or whatever. I'm gonna do lever 2, and this I'm gonna call it gate 2 to show that the name doesn't matter that much, but it's nice to keep track of what is what. Now go into Notepad, open the .cgs file, and then type switch 1 dash greater than, to make a little arrow, space, door 1, semicolon. Enter. Same thing for the other one. Lever 2 is gate 2, semicolon, and then save. And then back in the map, we can press F2, and if everything's gone right, we can use the switch to open the door. And it opened. And here you can see, as I put, the chamber has both rooms in view. You can do that in any combination. You can have the first 2 rooms in view. You can have all of them in view, or you can all have them similar, singular, whatever. And then if I interact with this one, it opens this door. And then you can see there's 2 hatches. I'm gonna go into one checkpoint. Kind of automatically focuses on this. Step 1, going back. This checkpoint. And boom. The door's open. Go to it, space, and done. But going back to the tiled editor, you can still add some things. For example, you can add little details. For example, lights, like this static lamp. Or you could add the hanging light. I'm just gonna put it here. Match it to the ceiling. Boom. And I don't know, a big fan. See that it's on Objects Plus, so I need to put it on Objects Plus. I'm gonna put it, let's say here. No, that doesn't look good because it collides with the object, with the goal, to be exact. So I'm gonna move some things with the lever. Put this here. This is an example, so it's not. I'm not gonna put too much effort into it, but I'm just gonna show how it works. This is an Objects Plus, and then the light in the middle, which goes on the layer lights. Copy paste in the middle, and then in background you wanna remove the background using the eraser tool, and then save. I'm gonna give the last room some light as well. Don't want it to be too dark in there. Save. Load game. Checkpoint state. F2. And you see there's lights. Open the door. Go through. And you see there's hanging lights. And the background fan. This hatch still works. And the same story continues. You can also add hanging chains or cables or whatever. You can add whatever you want. But to make good maps, you want to keep it a little bit realistic. So making rooms like this may not be the best idea, or like this size like this wouldn't be the best idea. So make it a little bit bigger, that it will also make sense. And one of my favorite objects to use for decorating are all the row lights inside a map that only plays inside. I would only use the first two, which are the hanging chains on the cable. The jungle stuff you could only work when you're making a map that based outside. And also the portals. The closed one is basically just a portal that has no. The closed portal is just a portal that has no target. The portals have to be matching. For example, portal 1A, you can see the name over the object. Scroll down, target is portal 1B. This is portal 1B, and the target is portal 1A. Then there's the automatic one, which there's some more properties, where you just have to run into it and it automatically puts you to portal 1A. Then you got the tooltip trigger, which is basically a little text that says at the bottom of the screen. When you enter the area, it tells you whatever you wrote in the message. There's two different messages you can put, depending on for gamepad or keyboard. Then there's the door marker, which is a little bit more advanced, which is basically where the camera moves when you open a door with the camera. Not with the camera. When you use a switch, but you want the camera to go near the door, then you place the door marker, so the camera focuses on that, and you see the door open even though you're not there, like the player character. Then the dot matrix display you can use to display little fun messages. The minecart wreck and forklift wrecks there's two different variants for both. And the plain door, and some other objects that you can use for decoration or features. The different enemies: the human with a pistol, the scientist, the weapons, the flamethrower dude. Then the mechs, one is facing to the right and one is facing to the left. You can see that in the direction property. One is -1 and one is 0. 0 is right, left, -1 is left. Then the scientist on the computer. All of this goes into Objects Plus, and same thing with this one. This is basically guy on a computer facing left, and this is the same thing but it's facing right, and he has two monitors. Then there's a drone, a turret, and a stick bomb. Then all the blocks you can use, they all have to go on the foreground layer, except the ladder, because it has to go onto the background. If you put it on the foreground, it's gonna become a solid block that you can't pass through. And the water block, of course, you can only move through if it's underwater. Then in the chambers, the BG override, background override, you can use for when you have a specific background, for example, jungle, but you want a tiny area of it to be, for example, a lab. Then you just put the chamber inside the bigger chamber and adjust the background texture to lab 1 and the foreground texture to lab 1, or just one of them, and then you check override foreground generator or override background generator. Then down here the upgrades, pretty self-explanatory. Then the effects, the simple plant, is on Objects Plus. I think all of these are Objects Plus. Oh, there's some fog blurs, water, and parallax. So the simple plant basically just generates some randomized plants on the ground, or wherever we place it. I don't know if it has to be a jungle chamber for it to work. I haven't tested that yet, but it wouldn't make that much sense to see plants inside a building, except it's like overground, or it kind of depends on the theme you're going for. Then the fog is a pretty nice touch. It adds some nice lighting. Then the rain, some water, and the parallax. I only know of 2 parallaxes so far, so you can simply copy them. You'll need all 3 of these. It's like a background one, a medium one, and like a foreground one. You may want to play around with it if you want them to look specifically. Ambient sound, you can play around with that. I haven't used it yet. And then the stuff I still don't understand, and I probably will find out what to do with in the future. Okay, so I think that should be it. If you've got any more questions, you can leave them. If you have any problems or are stuck making maps, you can ask. I should be available on the Discord server. And thanks for watching.